F18, F16, F5, and whatever this thing is. Listen, there's nothing wrong with this plane, except for the fact that it's ugly. Okay, I'm kidding, but seriously, we all know that we all start somewhere in Trailmakers, and pretty much all of our planes look something like this. Now, these planes usually fly pretty good, but they don't look very good. So today, I will be showing you 5 helpful tips that will help you improve your fighter jet's aesthetics. Progressively through this video, the building tips will get more advanced. So let's start off with something easy for tip number 1, and that is reference. I said it once and I will say it again. Google search Lego whatever. For example, I'll do Lego F18. And boom, look at all these perfect references we have. The reason I'm telling you to use Lego builds as a reference instead of the real thing is because it literally shows you exactly block for block what you should be using. Like this, I should use a big wedge here, a rounded corner here, and a 4x1 wedge right here. But what if you already knew that? Well, for tip number 2, I have an even better building technique, and that is odd width building. Jets normally have a pointy nose and a nice vertical stabilizer centered on the back. But if I build here in a even width, you could see that the tail is pretty chunky, and also the nose just doesn't have a nice, smooth transition. Now that you have built your odd width jet and it looks nice and clean, you're probably wondering how you fit a cockpit on the inside if most of them are even width. Well, there's no need to worry because tip number 3 shows you exactly how, and that is by piston glitching. Now, I've actually talked about this a little bit in my beginner fighter jet tips and tricks video. If you want to know more about like glitching guns and thrusters and things like that, go ahead and check out that video after this one. So simply put, we're just going to remove a section of our jet, then we will add our seat right here, and a piston on a low setting right here. Let's go ahead and just raise this up until it is as close as we could possibly get it to the inside. And you can see that when we spawn this thing in, it is now flush and our seat is glitched inside of the jet. You can also customize a cockpit just like this one using the same technique with the piston, and yeah, it just looks extremely clean. Also, this F18 I made is based off of the Canadian CF18, and oh my gosh, it just looks so cool. For tip number 4, I have a feeling a lot of you are going to be surprised by this one, but honestly, it will change all your future builds for the better. And that is decals. For example, look at my alien spaceship here. It has super simple decals all over it, and this is it without any decals. It is hideous. Or my sound barrier breaking Dark Star. This looks pretty cool, right? But when you take off the decals, it also just looks kinda lame. Basically, my point is it just helps, okay? Now for the last tip, tip number 5, hinge glitching. First, have 2 separate sections of your build, and connect both of them together by putting a hinge in the middle. Now, hide a distance sensor on the inside and put everything to the setting of 0 and invert the trigger. Once you connect it to the hinge, you could actually see that when you spawn it in, it actually lines up pretty nicely with the nose. Now, of course, mess around with the angle to get the one that looks the best for you. But yeah, that looks pretty good to me. Now, if you catch yourself struggling with trying to get these gaps filled in, mess around with some wedges and see which ones fit the best right here. Just a little bit after the hinge will be your best bet, but yeah, basically because these don't have any sort of attachment points on the top, you can see that when I spawn this thing in, yeah, nothing's connected and it actually closes. Now to fix this weird gap, if we go ahead and grab some OR gates, you can see that they don't have a face on the top, or at least any connecting points on top. So when we spawn it in, it is nice and clean and flush, kind of. But basically, yeah, there's no gaps. Now, an even crazier example of this is if you look at my F18 here, right here near the center, there is a hinge and it goes all the way down towards the tail. So basically, when I spawn this thing in, you guys will see that it glitches extremely fast into the frame of the entire craft here. So yeah, it's a very gradual slope, and it's just something that wedges can't get done. Although this game has its limits, I feel like all these cool building techniques actually help out with creating whole new shapes and new wedges, and just stuff that's not really in the game. Well, remember to share these building techniques with your friends, because unfortunately, a lot of people in the Trailmakers community like to gatekeep their building techniques. Anyways, don't forget to check out the video on the end screen where I show you how to improve all your fighter jets' performance. Bye!